Dr. Homebrew is brought to you by 5 Star Chemicals, providing safety and cleaning supplies for brewing, distilling, and winemaking at 5starchemicals.com.
Doctor, look!
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
Yeah! Dr. Homebrew, everybody. Welcome to the show. Where all your dreams come true. At least all your homebrew beer dreams, anyway. And even then, we're not so sure. My name is JP, along with my co-hosts, Brian and Lee.
Hi.
Howdy.
Welcome back, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to be here.
In case you don't know, I'm still trying to learn the ropes here, so kind of like, what do I do next? Oh, yeah, there we go. In case you don't know about Dr. Homebrew, Dr. Homebrew is a show where you can send in your homemade beer or cider, I suppose, or meat, or whatever. We'll try anything a couple times. But you send in your homebrewed meat, homebrewed beer, and we judge it. We, not we as in myself, but we as in Brian and Lee. They are master BJCP judges. And they are here to help you improve your beer or just give comments on it. And maybe you think it's perfect, but you just kind of don't know if you want to enter in competition or whatever. Either way, we can help you out. And the kick, the gimmick, the whatever, is that we have you on the show with us. So you can, if you're local, you can come on in and sit down like one of our guests tonight. But, if not, we'll Skype you in or call you in or whatever. And you get to ask the question. So if there's a comment that Brian or Lee make that you don't really understand, you can ask that question. So it's an interactive BJCP score sheet, and I'm pretty happy about it. I think it's going to be a good show. It's going to blow up every other show. It's going to flip the industry on its head, or something.
And if JP makes any comments you don't understand, that we can answer those too.
No, I don't think you can. You just roll with it.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Just go, oh, yeah, sure, the cat can go up the walnut tree. Yeah. First off, I want to thank our fine sponsor, 5 Star. You all know 5 Star. If you're a home brewer or a home winemaker, or you do anything at home ever besides sleep and watch cartoons, you know about 5 Star. 5 Star, they have the PBW, they have Star San, they have all the products that you already know and love, and if you don't know about them, go check them out at your local homebrew shop, or if your local homebrew shop does not carry them, contact them and say, hey, look, you guys need to really get with the program here, because PBW is where it's at.
I wonder if there are other hobbies you could use it with, like, home canning, like cleaning your
sure, why not?
Equipment.
I use it.
PBW on your big pot that you made the jam in or whatever.
I use PBW. I cleaned my bathtub and my shower tile with PBW the other day.
I ran a bunch of PBW through my dishwasher the other day.
Yeah. That stuff is great.
We have some really freaking hard water in Livermore, so it just, the filter gets clogged up with all this whitish stuff, and it's just calcified. And, ran it through there. It helped loosen up some of that stuff. But
I love it, man. I use I soak my stainless pans in it if they get too funky.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Work.
Yeah,
I do not use it to wash the dog, though.
Oh, well, maybe you should.
No, probably not.
It's good for, hot PBW, take labels off fast. If you're like getting ready to enter a competition, you have 5 minutes to get them in the homebrew shop. Well, maybe a little more than that, but you can rip some labels off of bottles if you're too lazy to remove them, like I sometimes am.
That's right. PBW is the wonder bread of beer, of home brewing. So today on the show, we have a couple beers. We have a stout from a gentleman named Ted, and then we have another beer, another IPA, which seems to be our specialty on this show, from a handsome young gentleman named David Howes. And David has an interesting concept with his beer. It was a split batch. And so we're going to kind of get into that as well as break down his IPA to just try to help him pump that up a little bit. So let's take a break, and then on the other side, we'll be on with Ted and talking about his stout. Back after this.
Do you know the three most important rules in brewing: sanitation, sanitation, and sanitation. And no one does it better than 5-Star Chemicals. 5-Star knows sanitation. You can only sanitize clean equipment. And 5-Star knows how to clean, too. For craft brewers and home brewers, 5-Star has what you need to keep your fermenters, serving tanks, kegs, and draft lines sparkling and free of any beer-spoiling bacteria. PBW, caustic, acid cleaners, Star San, SanaClean, lubricants and defoamers, pH stabilizers, and more. 5-Star Chemicals has cleaning supplies, safety supplies, heat exchangers, pumps, hoses, and valves. And 5-Star is proud to offer eco-friendly products that exceed customer expectations. If you have a cleaning problem, you need the 5-Star solution. Visit 5starchemicals.com or call 800-782-7019. 800-782-7019 and get the 5-Star treatment today.
This Mosaic Pale Ale from Rebel Brewer is delicious.
Yes, I enjoy it too.
Wait, did you hear that? It sounds like a velociraptor.
Why would a velociraptor be here? That doesn't make any sense.
He's going for my beer.
I'll stop him. Oh!
It looks like our frightening friend just has a thing for Rebel Brewer hoppy beers.
RebelBrewer.com has the largest selection of grains on the planet. And if you order before noon, most orders will ship the same day. 2/3 of the country gets their orders in 2 days or less. Rebel Brewer, the velociraptor of homebrew shops. Why wait? Quick, flexible, speedy, fast, not slow, and fast, and speedy.
Visit rebelbrewer.com today, or I'll rip your face off.
Oh, and he'll totally do it too.
Visit today at rebelbrewer.com.
Dr. Homebrew, please report to the ER for code blue. Dr. Homebrew to the ER, please. Oh, and your tea time has been moved to 2:30.
Now back to Dr. Homebrew.
All right, thanks for sticking with us, everybody. As if you could break away from an exciting show such as Dr. Homebrew, right? I mean, it's only Thursday. What is it, garbage day? You gotta take the cans out? No, you gotta sit at home, listen to Dr. Homebrew. With us on the line, we have Ted Collins. Ted, are you with us, buddy?
Aloha, how you guys doing?
Hello. From beautiful Hawaii, right?
Yep.
Man, that's so far that might be the farthest away. Well, no. Yeah, but at least, how about this? This is the nicest location that we've ever gotten beer from.
Cool.
I believe it. It's awesome out here.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, Ted. How long you been brewing beer?
So I've been brewing about 5 years. I got my start in Philly when I was stationed there. I'm active duty in the Coast Guard, so I moved out here about 3 years ago. So I do all grain. I split between 5-gallon batches and 2.5-gallon batches, depending on my schedule with my daughter.
Okay, right on. And extract or all grain?
All grain.
All grain. All right, and so we're drinking your stout right now.
Good. I'm happy you made it there. I was worried.
Yeah, for sure. I almost put up some other poor guy's stout in place because there's this big box. I'm like, this must be the beer for next show. But it wasn't. So I'm glad we got this, got it sorted out because it's a very tasty stout. Tell me about it.
So it was brewed the beginning of April. I bottled it. It's been about 8 weeks. It's got a little bit of two-row and some Maris Otter in it, and I dry hopped it with some cocoa nibs that were soaked in a little bit of brandy and some vodka.
Oh wow!
It's about just over 6%, about 66 IBUs. It started off at 0.07 and finished off about 0.02.
Right on.
Boozy nibs. I'm intrigued.
Have you done that before, or is this the first time?
No, I didn't. It's something I've always wanted to try. It's my first time making a stout. I tend to brew kind of traditional. I don't try a lot of oddball things. I'm still trying to kind of hone in my brewing style, I guess. I don't tend to go off the wall too much. Not that putting cocoa nibs in beer is off the wall, but it sounded interesting, so I gave it a shot.
Yeah, it is. I love it. I actually haven't put nibs in my stout in a couple of years, but there was a 8-9 months, man, where that's all I did. I love it. It's really good complexity. Lee, why don't you start us off, man? What do you think about Ted's beer here?
Oh, all right. Ted's beer is a pretty decent beer. Got some medium intensity sort of American piney hops in the nose. A little bit of caramel malt and definitely some cocoa coffee kind of flavors in there too. A little bit of fruity esters in the nose. No off flavors. It seemed pretty clean for the ferment. I thought I might have picked up just a little bit of sort of a grainy, sort of crackery note to the malt, but that kind of worked all right with this. Mostly it was a coffee nose, though, with just a little bit of a sort of a darker roast kind of ashiness in there. And the flavor, again, sort of the coffee and cocoa chocolate flavors led, and I guess that's the cocoa beans probably coming through with just a touch of that ashy, higher roast malt note. A little bit of some fruity esters in there, medium-high bittering for the style, I thought. This is actually fairly bitter in the balance. A little bit of piney hop flavor, some grainy base malt flavor. And the finish was kind of bitter and the cocoa coffee flavor again. Roast malt flavors. Actually, for me, the roast malt flavor seemed a little bit light in this beer. The color was a bit sort of deep brown. It wasn't black. This clarity was good. It had a really nice head on it that lasted forever. And mouthfeel was a little bit some nice, good initial creaminess. It was dried out by the malt and the hops. Not really astringent, but it was just drying. Both those things will do that. Medium low body. CO2 was pretty much where it needed to be. It wasn't hot or alcoholic. I thought the body could actually be a little bit thin for this beer. This sort of is where I'm coming at this beer from. Everything seems pretty much right in here, but I think the roast intensity, especially some of the darker roast notes, especially for an American stout, which they tend to lean to being the darker sort of stouts, and people like to throw everything at them. I thought it needed a little bit more roast character in here and a little bit more body to really nail this style. I think the bittering seems to be a little high for it, but I don't think it's because the bittering is really too high. I think it needs a little bit more oomph to balance it out a bit. But all in all, I thought it was a pretty decent beer. I gave it a 31 point in the scale. But I think if you want to take it up to the next level, that's what you need to do. A little bit richer, a little bit more roast character to it.
Okay, cool thing. I'd say between the chocolate and the black barley, it was just over 9% of my grain bill. Yeah. So I can definitely up that up a little bit.
That should be pretty respectable. What's your water like there? Did you do any water treatments?
So this was right when I was in the middle of really messing around with my water. I added in a teaspoon of gypsum and calcium chloride to the mash, and then during the boil added in another half teaspoon of each. And looking at my water now, it's definitely more towards the brewing, I guess, a malty beer. I don't know how to really describe it, but so it probably has a little bit too much calcium chloride in it right now. So I shouldn't have added that in.
You have any idea what your local water is like for calcium?
Yeah, I had it. I don't have it in front of me, but I did have it tested since I brewed this through Ward Labs.
And?
Well, I don't have it.
No result yet. Okay.
I can pull up the info real quick, but I don't know what it exactly is off the top of my head.
Right. Well, often your local water supply, whoever's your water authority around, will have some sort of a précis online of what the water is like for minerals.
Just a general.
Yeah, just sort of a general. Here's where your range of calcium and magnesium, all these things are. Should be able to find it on the web. But the reason I asked, the classic stout water is usually very carbonate. Calcium carbonate, and you were saying you were adding gypsum and calcium chloride?
Yeah, and I was basing that off of Gordon Strong's book, with him just adding in the teaspoon automatically of each for some of his beers.
Right.
So, here I have my water right in front of me. I didn't know what you wanted to know about it.
Mostly it's trying to figure out where the calcium levels are and where the pH would be. So for a stout, if you want to get the good color extraction, flavor extraction, if I remember this, catch me if I'm wrong, Brian, but I think you want to keep the pH a little up higher than where it would be if you just mash in with all those roast grains. You don't want to go on too high.
That's right, yeah. A little more alkaline water is going to favor darker beers.
Yeah, so. But that might be why you're putting in, you were saying 9% roast malt, and I don't know what your chocolate black barley ratio there was, but
it's about 2 to I had 6% chocolate and 3% black barley.
Right. Yeah, you might put in a little bit more of the black barley. I don't know, but I would lean towards putting calcium, a little bit more sort of carbonate in this water to keep the pH up a bit. That's sort of the classic, the Dublin water profile. It would work well for this kind of a beer. And part's just the flavor, but part it also balances out all the acidity out of the roast malt and gives you a better extract from the malt. So if this is coming in a little light in body, and a little light in color, and a little light in roast flavor, to my palate anyways, that could be the source of it right there.
Okay.
I'd like to know the wetness factor of the water if you have that available.
It's pretty wet last time I checked.
100%.
Pretty much. Pretty darn close.
That's what when I brew my stouts, I look for 100% wetness factor, and they usually come out all right.
Yeah.
I hate it when you open up a can of water and it's that dry water. It's just
that's terrible.
There's nothing.
Yeah, it's just or like sludgy, syrupy. It's like, what is this?
0% water. They try to pass it off as water.
Terrible. Someone should pass a law. All right, Brian, you're up, buddy.
Hey, American Stout. This is has a kind of a little cold coffee roastiness in the aroma, low and pretty smooth. Some chocolatiness there in the aroma. It was a little cold when it came out. We popped it in the fridge while we were on our first. We were doing some recording earlier tonight, but anyway, there's no.
Don't break the fourth wall, Brian.
No DMS or diacetyl or anything like that. No serious flaws that I could detect in there. The hops were, kind of low and kind of maybe earthy. I didn't really get a big citrusy thing in there, but it was kind of subdued hops, definitely. In American Stout, you want to get a little hop in the aroma there. It doesn't have to be crazy over the top. It's definitely a malt balanced beer, but appearance was kind of a medium brownish black. It was maybe a little light. It doesn't need to be jet black to be a good American Stout to me, but they tend to be a little darker. So yeah, seemed fairly clearish from what I could see with a low tan head and just kind of fine mousse-like bubbles that stuck around pretty well. Nice appearance. 3 for appearance out of 3. The roast character was pretty clean, and there was a nice, warm, rich chocolatiness in there that makes sense now that you say what's in it. Clean ale fermentation, obviously, and definitely balance of the malt, rich and some of the richer malt characters are up there. Some of the medium malt characters, like the carameliness, I felt were a bit lacking, and it just kind of it's like if you think about your malts as a graphic equalizer on your stereo, you're pulling out all the mids and you're pushing up the highs and the lows or something. It's like sometimes to give it a visual like that, if you just have all roast malts and you don't have enough middle malts and some caramel or Munich or something interesting in there to kind of round out the middle, it can seem a little one-dimensional in there. So there was a hint of kind of ashiness in the aftertaste that I thought, it wasn't like over the top, but bitterness was kind of medium low and clean to me. I got a little citrusy hop in the flavor actually, and a little earthiness, but it was still pretty low overall. It was just like the roast and chocolate by you, and it was very smooth. And I think the chloride, used calcium chloride. The chloride can generally kind of smooth out the bitterness. So from the roasted malts, I think kind of takes the edge off of them a little bit. Same for hops and things, but just generally in your beer, chloride will do that. So if that's what you wanted to go for, that's cool. The chocolate definitely won out over the roast, but so mouthfeel wise, kind of medium light bodied, pretty creamy and smooth, not very astringent. Only a tiny hint of alcohol warmth in there, just kind of unassuming, smooth. Good clean stout. So overall impression, nice. Like I said, the richer malts were coming through, the chocolatiness especially. Some of the supporting malts you might want to bump those up, and a hint of some dark caramel and somewhere in there might be make it interesting. I don't know. Also, I'd add a bit more hops, maybe just bump up your hop additions by about 10% and just see where that takes you. But also adjusting the water is going to play with that too, and if you adjust your water and then push up your hops at the same time, maybe it'll be too harsh. I don't know what the hop levels were. We'll talk about your recipe next, I guess. But just a little bit more of the intensity and that oomph that Lee was saying, would be needed to reach the real American. It almost hinted towards being like a dry stout with American characteristics, dry Irish stout. It's just fine tune it, bump up the ABV a touch, and some of those other elements, and it is a really good beer. I give it a 36. Came out seeming a little high, but I couldn't really find a lot to fault it for. It's very, very cleanly brewed, so nice job.
Oh, thank you. Now, I based this on is a beer that I can't get out here anymore, but it was called Voodoo Stout by, I think, Left Coast Brewery.
Okay.
And when I first came to Hawaii a couple years ago, they had it in all the stores, and I loved it. The distributor out here no longer carries it, so I was kind of trying to reproduce it, and I tried to get a hold of the brewery a couple of times and never heard back from anybody, but I kind of based it on that beer. I don't know if you guys have ever had that beer or not.
No.
I have not, no. How close do you think you got?
I don't even remember. I remember the hops being much more aggressive in the commercial version, but that's really all I remember. It's probably been 2 years since I've had it.
I know Black and Voodoo. I don't know Voodoo Stout. That's cool.
Yeah, Stout. I don't know. Left Coast Brewery. I'm not too sure. They might not even be around anymore. Maybe that's why they don't carry it.
I would assume they're on the left coast, and we live on the left coast here. Unless it's the left coast of Hawaii they're talking about.
No, it's definitely out of California.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, Ted, you mentioned that you were soaking the cocoa nibs in brandy and vodka.
Yes.
Should we be tasting that at all? It should be. I would think maybe not the vodka, but the brandy, guys. I don't know. What do you think?
There was a total of 2 ounces of vodka and 2 ounces of brandy. So overall, it really was not that much. It was just I put the cocoa nibs in a small mason jar, and it was just enough alcohol to cover them up.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So 2 ounces of vodka and 2 ounces of brandy.
5 or 10 gallon batch.
5 gallon.
5 gallon. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I picked up a bit of alcohol in the nose, but it was pretty clean.
Mm-hmm.
You must have used a decent vodka.
Yeah. You only drink the good stuff here.
Yeah, I'm not getting a big boozy brandy-like character, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
The flavors are in there. I think are actually very nice. This is a very easy drinking beer. You could actually put down a lot of it.
Yeah, the alcohol you soaked it in probably pulled out some of that good chocolatiness out of there, and
that's what I was hoping for.
Yeah, it's got good chocolate flavors. It's really nice and creamy. It's just for me, it's kind of light for a stout, and it's light enough for those flavors. But that's fixable.
Yeah, I brew my stout the same way. It's not heavy on the roast and that real acrid black malts, and I like it very kind of creamy like this. It reminds me a lot of mine. All right, Ted, do you have any questions for the guys on your American Stout with cocoa nibs?
I don't think so. I mean, you guys had mentioned a couple of times the mid-grade malts, and my grain bill was 2-row Maris Otter, the chocolate, and Crystal 40, and black barley. Is there any other malts that you might recommend adding in there as kind of a mid-range?
What were those ratios?
It's 54% 2-row, 32 Maris Otter, and then 6 for the chocolate, 5% crystal, and 3% barley, the black barley.
Okay.
That sounds pretty good.
Mid-range? I wouldn't quibble with that.
Based it on the Brewing Classics, well, the grain bill, somewhat off of Jamil's Brewing Classic Styles. I tend to start there with all my recipes and then adjust as I think I might like the beer.
Was it a 40?
I think this is probably based pretty close off of his recipe.
40 Lovabond Crystal? Or
yes.
Yeah, it might just be playing with the water. This is a pretty good beer, and it's, everything's kind of balanced right, and the chocolatiness is interesting. I might leave the brandy out next time, but just use the vodka if you want to extract that and get some of those more chocolatey flavors out. If you want to go, a different direction with it, add even more nibs. Enter it as a specialty beer, or spice herb vegetable. Actually, if it has a rich chocolate character, it could be a good way to go.
Yeah, I have a pretty strong feeling it's how I played with the water, because my chloride is 112 parts per million and my sulfite is 6.
Yeah.
So I just bumped all of those up, and it probably didn't need to go up as high as I raised them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really smooth beer, but at the same time, if you had a little, some of that, it might be pulling down some of that kind of what I call the middle malt, and kind of smoothing everything out a little bit, and just, but solid beer.
Yeah, and those salts, those will impact the flavors in the way you say. I mean, for me, the water profile thing is more about getting the extraction right and your mash pH right. And I think with all the roast malt that's in there, you might need something to tweak that pH back the other way, because those are very acidic. All that roast is very acidic, so you need something basic to carbonate to pull it back up.
Well, I added all my roasted malts with 20 minutes left in the mash.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You don't have to add them through the whole mash, and that's, it's good that you know that. It's, if you mash the full time with all your dark malts in there, it's only going to extract more of the harsh flavors from the husks, and, it's just not necessary, really. It doesn't need to be mashed. There's no fermentable, or there's no, nothing that needs conversion in those malts. They've been burnt to hell.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah, that was from Gordon Strong's book too.
Yeah,
yeah.
Gordon talks
still
about
want the pH right for that. Even for that part, I mean, you'll probably get the mash all done if that was the right pH. But no, to get the extract on those roasts done, so get the flavor of those roast grains out and the color out of them too.
Mm-hmm.
What's the pH of your water?
About 8.
Okay, so that's you're in the right territory. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it worked. It made beer.
It is nice.
It did make beer.
Good.
I agree.
Very good beer.
All right, Ted. Well, if that's it, man, we'll let you go.
That was it. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Had a good time. Thanks for letting me do this.
Good. Hey, thanks for sending beer all the way from Hawaii.
Mahalo.
Yes. Please. Guys need to come out here and do a show. You got some good breweries out here.
I would love to do that. And in your honor, I'm going to go home and watch an episode of Magnum P.I.
Perfect. I appreciate it. I drove by his house, actually. I used to live by where they filmed that.
Oh, really?
House, yes.
The Robin's Nest?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm kind of a fan. All right, buddy. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Take care, guys.
All right, Ted.
Thanks.
Bye. The Robin's Nest. Terrible name.
Cue up the theme song, man.
We should come back on that song. I love that stupid show. All right. Thanks, Ted, again. I appreciate it, man. That was a very good beer. And all the way from Hawaii. That couldn't have been cheap, so appreciate it. And when we come back, we'll talk to Dave and his IPA. Back after this.
Where do you go for all the stuff you need to brew? Homebrewstuff.com, of course. In their Boise, Idaho storefront and warehouse, they have more than 750 craft beers and 8,000 square feet of homebrew products in stock. The staff at Homebrew Stuff are homebrewers themselves. They try out just about everything, including the beer, so they can answer your questions knowledgeably and correctly about brewing, kegging, and anything else you might need to ask. Don't live near the Homebrew Stuff store? Visit homebrewstuff.com online and take advantage of their $7.95 domestic shipping available on most orders. Homebrewstuff.com is a proud sponsor of the AHA, NHC, GABF, and countless other acronyms. So if you're a homebrewer looking for great people, a great selection, and great deals, head to homebrewstuff.com, online or in person. Visit their YouTube channel for loads of free how-to and product videos. All of the stuff you need to brew. Homebrewstuff.com. Now, back to the examination.
That's right, baby. It's Dr. Homebrew. Back in surgery. Or whatever lame surgical pun I can figure out for our next... Whatever. Dr. Homebrew, everybody. Thanks again to Ted and his awesome stout. We now have my close personal friend, Mr. David Howes.
Hello.
In the studio. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah?
It's almost Friday.
It is almost Friday. Well, if we stay here any longer, it'll be Friday before we leave.
40 minutes, 1 hour?
Yeah, something like that. We could probably do it. So, Dave, you have an IPA for us to try.
I do.
Tell me a little bit about your homebrewing background. How long have you been brewing?
I've been brewing for, I think, about 7 years. I started with, I think a lot of people, with the Mr. Beer Kit.
Yeah.
And realized how disgusting that is. They're not a sponsor.
They're not a sponsor. No, you're fine. Don't worry about it. You're fine. Have you always brewed? Have you always been so handsome when you brew, or is this a late onset handsomeness?
I think it came later. The beer does that to you.
That definitely does. That's cool. And you do extract, right? Or no, you do all grain?
No, I do all grain. I started with extract, and then I progressed into all grain. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so the interesting thing about this beer is that it's a split batch.
Yes.
What did you do with this? I've
been doing that lately. I like to brew 10-gallon batches lately. My system just barely does 10-gallon batches. So, and I don't necessarily want 10 gallons of the same beer, so I split it, and I'll do like what I call a micro mash with different grains, and then after I split the batch, I'll maybe dry hop or add something to half of the batch, and then the other half I'll add the my micro mash to, or something which is darker grains or other grains and stuff to kind of change things up, so I get a couple different a little variety out of 10 gallons a batch.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
That's not bad. And so the base malt, or your base beer you were shooting for, was an IPA, or was this?
Actually, on this particular one, I was kind of shooting for a hoppy pale, but it kind of the hops and the alcohol level kind of geared towards maybe a lighter IPA.
So you screwed up, basically.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, let's jump into this IPA. Brian, you want to?
Yeah, this is what I would call kind of a classic IPA. We've all had those big West Coast IPAs, and this one has a kind of a clean, bright, general citrusy kind of lemon lime, hint of mandarin kind of in there. Pretty nice, safe hop choices in there. The malt's clean, just a basic base malt with a low light caramel underneath there, almost a kind of a low honey like graham cracker like kind of character in there too. Pretty clean, fruity apple pear kind of esters in there. A little bit of a slight kind of toffee like character in the malt too. I thought just a hint of that. No DMS or diacetyl or anything weird. Cleanly brewed in the aroma, everything kind of middle of the road for what I want in a lighter IPA. A nice, bright, deep golden color with yellowy orange highlights and just really brilliantly clear. I like the appearance. Had a nice medium headstand that persisted pretty well. Kind of fine bubbles. Off white. Just in the flavor, just clean base malt, again low caramel, a lot of the same kind of comments as the aroma, kind of mellow citrusy hops, and nothing wild, nothing big in your face. The bitterness was pretty smooth and kind of medium to medium low territory, not biting at all, kind of. But the beer finished medium dry, like I like an IPA to do. A hint of some kind of slight minerally notes in there, but the water's coming through a little more than in some IPAs. It's just, the aftertaste, just clean citrusy hops. That's what you want, and that's what you get. It's a basic IPA. Medium light body, slightly minerally feel to it. Very low warmth, not extremely creamy, but pretty smooth anyway. And no real hop astringency that jumps out at you. Carbonation's kind of medium. Generally dry feeling IPA, which is what you want. Overall, it's a safe beer. It's a nice hoppy IPA, and I kind of like to see that sometimes where you get IPAs and everybody just has to amp it up, and every IPA you get after the other is like an IPA and a half, leaning towards Imperial IPA territory. Every once in a while, it's just nice to have a basic kind of classic, like a, Anchor Liberty kind of IPA that's just not in your face. It just has everything there that it needs. It's nicely balanced, but it was lacking maybe some hop complexity, and I think that perhaps bumping up some of the more funky and more intense hops to avoid becoming too kind of generic and safe and almost pale ale-like. But I would avoid swinging too far into the wild territory there. Cleanly brewed. Maybe bring up the ABV just a touch, and the late and dry hops just very small percentage, just, and if this is what you want, this is what you're going for. But yeah, it's a nice IPA. I gave it a 37, actually. I thought it was really cleanly brewed and brings back good memories of the old days.
Oh, awesome. Thanks.
That was a good recap.
Well, thanks. I'm getting better at this as we go along.
Is it because he's here?
I always score the guests that are here. You got to score them higher. You have to look them in the face and say, "I gave your beer a." Oh yeah.
Let me cross out that 13, and I'll just write a 43. Hey, look at that.
No, I judge everything fairly, impartially, and I do my best anyway.
And that's what I want. That's what I'm looking for.
Lee, what are your opinions?
What are my opinions?
On the beer.
On the beer?
Yeah.
Oh, God, you take all the fun out of this. Okay. Restricting myself to the beer. American IPA. Medium intensity, piney, oniony, citrusy hops. I thought the intensity was okay. Could maybe be a little higher, but not too bad. Got some caramel malt in the nose. Some light fruity esters, although maybe that was from the hops. I wasn't really sure. Seemed like a clean ferment. No off aromas from that. I thought maybe I picked up just a slight whiff of a little bit of cheesiness to the hops, sort of late in the game, which might suggest that some of the aroma hops might not have been fresh, although I don't know where you got them or how, but I picked up just a little bit of that. It was a pretty beer, had a big head, fine bubbles, the foam lasted a long time. It's a good foam stand. Light amber color. Very nice, very clear, almost brilliant. Maybe not quite that clear, but it's very pretty beer. Looked great. For the flavor, I would say medium-high IBUs, malt caramel flavor, sort of lead. A little bit of that sort of citrus, onion, piney hops. Can follow that up. And a little bit of a light fruity ester. I thought it was a bit in the sweet side, not too bad, but seemed notably compared to most IPAs a little bit sweet. The ferment seems to me maybe not to have completely attenuated. It doesn't taste warty or anything like that, but I'm kind of guessing here. But it's just since it seemed a little bit sweet, I'm wondering it might have not completely fermented out. Either that or it's being mashed a little bit high. Body I thought was medium high, almost a bit high for style, but not too bad. It did give it a nice creaminess that it might not otherwise have had. Carbonation was okay. It wasn't hot or astringent or anything like that. It was pretty nice there. I thought it was a good IPA. A little bit of pungency to the hops, but not too much. Sort of a classic combination otherwise. Unobtrusive supporting malts. A little bit of whiff of cheesiness maybe in some of those hops, but not a big deal. I didn't even notice it first. It's just mostly I thought it was just a bit sweet for the style. It tasted, to me, I would guess under attenuated rather than high mash temp, but I wasn't really sure. I mean, if that's a problem, no, maybe bigger, healthier yeast pitch or yeast nutrients or something like that would help. So that was my take on it. I actually gave it a 32 points. I thought it was okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, David, what do you think?
Well,
your rebuttal, sir?
No.
No.
No. I mean,
which one of us do you
all of that
disagree
makes
with?
sense. All of that makes sense. As far as the hop cheesiness, all my hops, they're all pellet
hops.
Pellet hops, yeah. And they're frozen, and they're some of them might be a little old, but I keep them in like triple bagged and stuff in the freezer, and I don't like flush them with the CO2, but I do squeeze out all the airs and like triple bag them so I don't get like the freezer.
Triple bag with
freezer
what?
burn.
Well,
Plastic bags?
Well, I have them in the main bags or the Mylar type, so it doesn't get any light in there. And then within that, I bag them in another plastic bag, and then in even another plastic bag because sometimes you get those freezer tastes and stuff.
Oh, the aromas from your freezer.
Yeah. So.
Another trick you can use is the food saver things, and
I have those too.
Just
and it'd be perfect now because
they have the vacuum system that you can use with either bags or with the thing, and you can just put your hops that are just in whatever bag they came in, and just drop them into one of those little containers of like a food storage container and then
Seal-A-Meal.
suck all the air out. Seal-A-Meal.
Yeah. Oh, I have those.
It was a little tip that came up at one of our Mad Zymergist meetings one time. Somebody said just use a food saver thing. Yeah.
I'll definitely use that.
And they modified some jars too that they used with their hops and did that way. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just use the bags or the things, whichever I have. So yeah.
Oh,
you get your recipe there, Dave? When you
Yes, I do.
Yeah, flip through that thing.
Well, I have pale malt, 2-row, 93% of that, 93.5. I have a little bit of Munich malt, 2.7. British Crystal, what is it, 50-60. I call it 55 because they give the variance. Because I always like a little bit of that nuttiness in there, as opposed to using an American crystal. So it's the British Crystal 50-60. And lately I've been using Cara Aroma in a couple of my beers. I just kind of like some of the flavors I'm getting out of that, so I have a little bit of that, just 1%, a little over 1% in that. And another malt that I really like, and just to get a little bit of get it on a little bit darker note and just add a little bit of flavor in it, pale chocolate. I'm a big fan of pale chocolate malt and stuff. So
okay. What about your hops?
My hops,
you're triple bagged. Careful, Coors is going to steal that from you.
I bittered it with Columbus, Northern Brewer in flavoring, 15 minutes before boil. Simcoe, 5 minutes before the end of the boil, and at the flame out or 1 minute, some Summit. And then I dry hopped it with some Citra and Simcoe.
Okay. And do you have any questions for the guys based on their feedback?
I did, but I can't think of it now.
There are some wild hops in there. Wow, cool.
Yeah, and this is a batch that I split the batch. The other half I did a micro mash. What I call a micro mash. I did some darker malts and did like a little mash on the stove and stuff for I think it was 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And then when I split the batch, I added that portion to half of it, and then the IPA half I dry hopped. And that's one thing with this darker malts. I didn't want to. I wanted to make sure I kept out like citrusy type of hops, too much citrusy. So I kept that to the dry hopping of the IPA.
Smart.
So when you say the patented House micro mash, is it? It's just you're steeping the grains in extra water.
Yeah, basically, I just take a big grain bag, I throw them in there, and
in the wort that you pulled off.
No.
Okay.
It's just water. I think it was like a 3/4 of a gallon.
Okay.
On my stove, heat it to I think 152, the typical. The typical mash temperature. Threw the grains in there in a grain bag, and that was like some a little bit more Cara Aroma, a half pound of the pale chocolate again, like an ounce of Carafa 3, and then a little bit more. I wanted a little bit more. Try to get a little bit more mouthfeel, or a little bit more maltiness. I put some more of the British Crystal in there, and I don't taste it at all. But I also threw in just like a little small half or ounce of some peat smoked barley that I had, just to try. I don't think that comes through.
Just to add a little.
Yeah, I just wanted
depth.
to try it because I'm not a big fan of really smoky beers, but I wanted to just try it on this darker side just to see if something came through. I don't know if that came through.
It does.
Much, so. It does?
Yeah, totally.
Good.
I picked that up.
Oh,
yeah.
good. I mean, in a good way, or actually,
yeah,
just
good way. It's
now?
pretty low level, but it's a nice little kind of background note, that smokiness in there.
What do you guys think of this beer?
So this is an American brown.
That's what I call it, a West Coast brown.
West Coast brown. Yeah, it's rich. It's got a lot of solid rich malt characters. I get that little hint of smoke in there too. That's cool.
Oh, good.
Really subtle though. Yeah, it's not like it's overt at all. It's just kind of in balance and blended with other things. So yeah, I don't really like overly smoky beers either.
How far could you go and push the smoke on this beer before it gets a little too smoky?
Not much more. I mean, unless you want to start calling it a rock beer of some sort, or real smoked beer, that's about as much as I would go for just a flavor note.
Yeah, and I didn't want a smoky beer. I just wanted to try, because I've had this smoked malt. I wanted to try it in something, but not as a smoky beer, just to kind of add that to it. And it sounds like maybe I kind of acquired it in this way. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think that works pretty well. It works nicely with those chocolate malts that are in there too. The one thing I would consider is maybe, if you're going to put the smoke, is maybe just a touch less on the bittering. So it can kind of fight sometimes.
Right.
But
see, that's where it kind of was fighting, because it was the same batch as the IPA. So my kind of bittering, in a sense, was set, right? Or am I wrong?
So you split the batches after you did the...
Yeah, I split the batch after I chilled, after the chill and everything.
So basically, it's all those grains in that mash you're talking about added to the IPA.
Exactly.
Ah, okay.
And see, the IPA, I dry hop, so I got the extra, the hop aromas and stuff like that.
And tell us about the process of getting from the micro mash on the stove into the beer. You just cooled that separately.
I cooled that in an ice bath,
and then just dumped them together in one fermenter.
Yeah. So so I'm not gonna. I didn't get tons of sugar, obviously, from the dark grains. So that diluted the brown. So the brown's a little lighter beer than the IPA. The IPA,
but it's same hopping.
Except for dry hop.
Except for the dry hop.
Yeah. Which is, I think, it was just over 61 IBUs.
Okay. When you explained it to me, I thought you had split them entirely and hopped entirely differently also. But
no.
Okay.
It's all the same hopping except for the dry hopping. I mean, do you notice, just my curiosity, do you notice a big difference, or are they kind of similar, or...
It's interesting what the dark malt does with the hops. It just it comes up, and you pushed up enough of the dark malts in this American brown that it's a malt balanced beer. The other beer is a hop balanced beer, and you get more of the hop character coming through. It's like kind of the same thing was when you do a split batch with an American yeast versus a Belgian yeast with an IPA or something. It just totally changes the hop character. And malt, does the same thing when you bring it up to balance and push it up. I mean, obviously you reach a point where the hops are going to just kill the malt, and you could, it would just get bigger and bigger, and you'd have both fighting with each other. But, this is a good experience. It's a light, it's not an over the top IPA to start with.
I didn't want that. I'm like JP. I'm a session drinker.
Yeah.
So I wanted something like, if I'm going to do an IPA, I want it on the lighter side. But then again, I wanted to keep the IBUs at a certain level to where it's not going to overpower and fight too much with the dark malts.
I think it works. I mean, I think the brown ale, the IBUs are not too high. I don't know. The bitterness is not biting me. It's pretty smooth, and the malt is...
It's very balanced.
It's nicely balanced, I think.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, for me, I actually think the IBUs are pushing it for a brown ale like this. It's got that kind of IPA level bitterness. For me, it seems a little much, but it's not way past where it should be.
Yeah.
Depends on your taste. If you like that, that Janet's brown kind of American brown, then on the hoppier side,
then this
I don't
is
think
probably right up.
This
your
isn't
alley,
quite there at all. It's smoother than that.
It's smoother, and it's a little. I think it's a little drier than that. I find that beer too sweet for me.
The Janus Brown,
yeah. I think it's a little too sweet. I like my American browns a little bit drier than that.
And that reminds me of a question. We were talking about the attenuation. Actually, typically, a lot of my beers, and I brew similar styles. Most of mine attenuate out. Yeah, that. And they go to 1008. Whereas this one, I couldn't get below 1010. So, which was kind of interesting. I mean, I'm a big fan of. I mean, I'm an easy brewer. I'm a big fan of dry yeast. It was just a typical 05, US 05 on both sides.
Well, 1010, 1008. I mean, that's still.
But usually I always go out to at least 10 10.08, and for some reason on this, even the IPA, it just went to 10.10. I was kind of surprised that it didn't go all the way down. But
is this a noticeably richer malt beer, more crystal malts or anything than your other beers?
It could have been. It could have been like those crystal malts, and maybe I'm not sure how much that cara aroma lends to something like that. But yeah, it could be the British Crystal that does that too.
Right.
I haven't used the Cara aroma. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, I got in one of my homebrew meetings, they were giving out these bags of Cara aroma, and
what is that used
I jumped
in tipping? Is it a Belgian or is it?
I think it's like a 120 Love Bond, so it does add definitely darkness to it and stuff. But I just kind of like the flavors of it. To be honest, I can't remember the actual flavor characteristics, but I know that I've used it in the past, and I really like what I get out of it. So I thought I'd just put a little bit in the base beer that I did, and then I added even more to that the mini mash.
Sure, and that's a really fun thing that homebrewers can do in general is, find malts that you tend to favor for your beers and that works with your water and your setup, and use those, and you can develop kind of a house character. And this is Johnny's beer. If it always tastes bad, if it always tastes bad and he's using some weird malt that just doesn't work with the recipes, then that's another story. But if you learn to balance them with what you make and do that, that's cool. Go for it.
Yeah, that's why. Like I said, it's this Cara aroma I like, and I'm like a huge fan of the pale chocolate malt.
Mm-hmm. I like both of these beers; they're good.
Thank you.
Tasty stuff.
Yeah,
good beer.
Good job, Dave.
Thank you.
You did great. I especially like the little micro mash. It's pretty good.
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
And the brushed aluminum growler.
That's true.
It's not insulated like
the Warhead, available in store now.
Exactly.
BrewNetwork.com/ I don't even know if it's /store, but you'll find it anyway. All right, we're up against the break, boys, and when we come back, we'll do our patented Dr. Homebrew recap, and then I think it's about time we get out of the studio. Back after this.
Hey, dude, you know what beer this is?
No, all the labels are falling off.
Yeah, or the ink is run.
Well, if it's a pale ale, you're good, but stay away from the quote-unquote Belgian.
Oh, man, this guy needs to get some grog tags.
Grog tags are reusable, write-on, wipe-off, commercial-grade bottle labels for your brew. The guys at Grog Tag are homebrewers. They wanted great-looking, sturdy labels for your bottles, buckets, carboys, kegs, and growlers. They also wanted a label that not only looks good, but can be easily removed and reapplied during bottling without that nasty glue residue being left behind. No residue, water-resistant, and ice chest approved. Grog tags stay on in water or an ice chest, and they stay legible. Visit grogtag.com to customize your label or coaster from dozens of different templates for free and see how awesome your bottles can look.
It's that pseudo-Belgian.
Yeah, we're getting him some grog tags, dude.
Grog Tag. At least your beer will look good. grogtag.com.
Report to the ER for code blue. Dr. Homebrew to the ER, please. Oh, and your tea time has been moved to 2:30.
Now back to Dr. Homebrew.
Stop moving my tea time, JP.
I know, but it's much better because the little girls who drive the caddy carts around selling beers are much hotter in the afternoon. It's Dr. Homebrew, everybody. We're wrapping up the show here. We're going to go over the two beers that we talked about today with Ted and David. So Ted is first up, and he had his stout, his American Stout with cocoa nibs added. And we all thought it was a really good beer. The feedback that you guys gave him, maybe just dial up the intensity a little bit, either with a roast character or water adjustment or crystal malts in the mid-palate. Maybe even some hops, and just that would take it up to the next level.
Or you could imperialize it and bump up the boozy nibs and barrel age it and just go crazy with it.
You could do that too. It was a really good base beer. You could pretty much go anywhere with it.
You could go a lot of different directions.
You could change it into something completely different.
But that's about...
Why not?
Why not, right? That's what homebrewing is all about.
was a pretty nice American Stout, and he did some really good things. I liked what he did with the dark grains, not adding them in the mash the full time. You can even add them when you're about to start sparging, or you can even kind of sparge through them. You don't have to just put them in the mash the whole time. It doesn't need to be there. So that makes sense.
Yeah, you can even cold extract them overnight if you like.
You could.
That's loud. Yeah, you can definitely do a lot of stuff in homebrewing, especially with that beer. It was very clean and very good. Then we have David.
David.
That's me.
Hi, David. And then Dave had the IPA / brown ale micro mash.
Our first overachiever. He brought 2 beers.
That's right. That's right. We focused on the IPA there, and you guys said just bump the ABV up a little bit if that's what you're looking for. Boost up the late edition hops. Lee, you were saying focus on your attenuation and a little bit of a cheesy hop aroma, but nothing too super offensive.
Not for the cheese, no.
Yeah.
No, it was just a little whiff of something in the end.
It's a lighter IPA, and 1008's on the very low end of what you want to finish at for an IPA as it is. So that would be appropriate too. The 1010 finishing was dry enough for me, I thought, but it was a pleasant, smooth, kind of classic IPA, almost like a pale ale and a half. And we were talking on the break about how the style creep is over the years. Sometimes the pale ales become almost IPA like, and the IPAs become almost double IPA like, and you don't need to do that. You can just, dial everything back where you want it. If you want to brew a session-y beer, we've got 2 very fine session-y beers here. They're pretty tasty.
Thank you.
Yeah, I rather enjoyed them. Thanks for bringing them in, Dave.
No problem.
All right, guys, what do you think? That's it?
Yeah. Let's call it.
I think that's it. This is another...
Toast.
What's that?
We're toast.
Yeah, we are toast, man. We're done. This has been Dr. Homebrew. I want to thank my co-hosts, as always, Brian and Lee, BJCP, Master Judges, more handsome you will not find, and very delicate flowers, too, and I appreciate them for coming in all the time. It's been great. And then Ted, of course, for sending in the beer, and then David, of course, for being here and looking very tired at me the whole time.
Thank you all.
But he didn't send his beer all the way from Hawaii. He just brought it in.
Yeah, he brought it all the way from Danville.
I was born in Hawaii, so that's got to be worth it.
Oh, cool.
Right?
Yep. But you left, and that's not... I don't know how you do that. If you want to be a guest on Dr. Homebrew and get this same kind of camaraderie and teasing, email me at jp@thebrewingnetwork.com, and I will give you all the information you need to send me your beers, and then we will sit and judge them and all that kind of stuff. Thanks again to our sponsor, 5 Star. Go to 5starchemicals.com, and we'll see you guys later.